Credits. Best place for farming these is the Index on Neptune. There are 3 levels of risk here, low, medium and high. The old meta was to farm medium, but with the updates to how the initial investments are handled and with the option to extract after each round, high risk now has the highest credits per minute. The initial investment is only taken once, which means in a high index run you'll invest 50,000 credits to enter the arena and gain back 200,000 in profit after beating the first round. For the second round we'll have a 250,000 profit because that initial investment doesn't get paid twice. The enemies scale over time and start getting more difficult to deal with after that second round, which slows your kills per minute and thus it takes longer to reach your point requirement. Due to this we complete 2 rounds and then extract. Good squads can usually go a few more rounds before noticing a drop in efficiency, but most squads aren't good. For a decent solo player it takes slightly over 5 minutes to collect 100 points, it's usually between 5 minutes and 5 minutes 20. To account for human error we'll assume that it takes 11 minutes to collect 200 points, which is 2 rounds. So 200 points in high risk provides a profit margin of 450,000, 200 points in medium risk provides about 430,000, and low risk has a profit margin of 360,000. But you also end up wasting more time in the last 2 as you need to reset your runs more frequently. So 11 minutes of work in high risk index gains you 450,000, buying a credit booster from the market doubles this amount to 900,000, and we happen to have a credit weekend upon us, which stacks with the credit booster from the market and increases our profit from 900,000 to 1.8 million credits per 11 minutes, which works out to about 9.8 million credits per hour. For those of you that haven't done the index before, it's very simple. There are 2 maps, and each map has a capture point for each team. Enemies drop points upon death in the form of a green gem, which you then collect and deliver to your capture point, which will be marked on your map. Depositing larger amounts of points in a single capture will net you more bonus points, but only up to a certain threshold. This is a table that I pulled from the wiki, and it shows that the most efficient time to bank is when you are carrying 15 points. This doesn't end up being a massive difference, but it is worth noting. In a single round, I usually aim to bank 15 points 3 times and then 21 points once to reach a total of 100. You could also bank 15 4 times and then 6 once. There's not much difference. Having said that, the main obstacle to overcome is the financial stress that gets more and more severe based on how many points you are currently holding. This stress mechanic reduces your maximum health and shields while constantly draining energy, which makes some frames more viable than others. The easiest way to counter this is to use Rhino. His iron skin makes the health and shield loss negligible, and the enemy orbs that constantly spawn around the arena easily provide enough energy for him to cast it when necessary. I've been doing a lot of solo runs to test a few weapons and builds, and I've had almost equal success with the Tigris Prime and the Vectus Prime, with the Arcoplasma trailing slightly behind. This is my Rhino build. I'm fairly limited because of the polarities required for my other builds, but the most important things to slot are strength, duration, and enemy radar. Armor mods also increase the effectiveness of his iron skin, but they aren't at all necessary for going 2 rounds. I'm running Energize because I like to be casting Roar frequently. If those arcanes aren't available to you, you could easily swap Blind Rage for Transient Fortitude for more efficiency, or if you don't need that damage buff, you can dump Duration entirely and just focus on your iron skin instead. Having maximum enemy radar shows all enemies in the arena on the map at all times, which makes killing them and collecting points so much more efficient. These 2 mods are by far the most important things in this build. I usually run this Riven on my Tigris, but all the testing for this video was done with the generic Radiation Viral build, and it performed admirably, as both of those elementals are very effective against all of the brokers. Similarly, Radiation and Cold on the Vectus Prime or Arcoplasma also works very well. I also run with the Telos Bortes because it has a passive that provides a 20% increase to bullet jump velocity and aim glide duration when it is equipped as part of your loadout, so I just run that for a nice mobility increase. It's worth noting that companions and gear items are not allowed in the arena, but you can still utilize your operator to generate energy with Energizing Dash when you aren't too heavily influenced by the financial stress mechanic. The farm could be optimized even more by running with an organized group. There isn't really a specific meta squad in place, but there are definitely some frames that are more valuable than others. Rhino is still an ideal point collector and would focus on the same things I've already mentioned. 1 or even 2 maces are often taken in to slaughter everything, making Rhino's job easier. Banshee can provide a massive damage increase to all players by spamming her sonar, and having her along also negates the need for equipping enemy radar, which means you could potentially run 4 corrosive projections if you wanted to strip enemy armor completely. The last slot is the most flexible, depending on the availability of Arcane Energize. Some groups prefer bringing in an EV Trinity, though many seem to prefer Nova. There is no real reason to slow the enemies, so they're usually running neutral or speed builds for Molecular Prime instead. So yeah, grinding the index can be a daunting prospect, but hopefully this information has helped. Enjoy!